Welcome to the Bill Moran Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM and streaming live at WVLP.org or on your TuneIn app. We are broadcasting live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill Moran Show is underwritten by Recovery Works of Maryville, Indiana. And now, here is your host, Bill Moran.
Welcome to the Bill Moran Show on WVLP 103.1 FM. Our show discusses people, news, and events in the Chicago area. We also hold timely panel discussions on such topics as substance abuse, domestic violence, sexual aggression, as well as veterans affairs. We have brought together elected officials and citizens to discuss issues that are impacting our community. Our purpose is to discuss solutions that would support our vibrant community in its communal and economic growth. So welcome to our show. WVLP is a community-based station that went into operation in the early 2000s. We are a volunteer-based station that show hosts who are passionate about the music or topics on their respective shows. You will find a wide range of music from every genre, as well as talk shows that cover a wide range of topics. We are an independent station, which gives us the freedom to bring you content that you will not hear anywhere else. Because we are independent, we rely on contributions from the community and support from underwriters. If you wish to support WVLP, go to WVLP.org/support and make a contribution anywhere from $5 to $100 or schedule a monthly contribution. By doing so, you will support programs like this one you are hearing now, talk shows such as Morning Black, a show that airs every Saturday morning and discusses diversity acceptance in our community. If music is your passion, you will find shows such as Left of Center, Living It Up, Velpo Blues, Old School Funk, or Mostly Metal, our founder's favorite genre and show. Please consider contributing today. Just go to WVLP.org/support. And with us today, we have some guests that are from the Porter County Sheriff's Department. We have Jeff Biggs, who's the Chief Deputy of the department, and we have Jay Birky, who is the director of a lot of the educational programs in both the jail and some programs in the department. So welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So as I told you, we're going to turn over to Kelly, and she's going to share us some rants and raves.
Well, hi, everybody. First of all, I'd like to start out by saying the views expressed are mine and not necessarily the views of WVLP or the management, although they should be. Oh, snap. First of all, we know this snow, this horrible, yucky snow that we had this weekend, wasn't my favorite thing. I'm assuming it's not your favorite thing either. So one of my rants is when you have snow all over your car, don't just scrape a little teeny thing this big, like 5 inches by 5 inches so you can see out the window and start driving around. Get that snow off your rear windows, off your side windows. Take it off the front of your car because you can't see anything. You people are going from one lane to another. You don't know who's next to you because you can't see out your stinking windows. Also, clear that snow off the top of your car or your truck because it'll start to melt, and then it gets cold, and it starts to freeze, and the next thing you know, you're zipping down US 30, and that stuff is flying at my car, the big chunks of ice and everything, so cut it out right now. I'm just saying. The other day, I was driving through a school zone. Well, actually, this happens a lot. I'm driving through school zones. There's these blinking lights, 20 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, and I'm going maybe 24, I admit that. And I slow down, and I'm going, and you people are flying past me and giving me the stink eye like I'm the bad person. No, slow down. One of these days, I'm going to go all Tawanda on you people. I'm not kidding. I'm not going to ram into the back of you, but I would like to, just like in the movie. I would like to Tawanda right into the back of you because, let's face it, I'm older and I have more insurance. Also, I drove past a neighborhood the other day, a newer neighborhood, and it has a big sign saying, "We feature maintenance-free homes." Honey, sign me up for that because I own a home and it is far from maintenance-free. If there is such a thing as maintenance-free homes, I want to know about it. For my rave this week, I would like to send a big shout out to, and I'm sure there are other communities, but these are the ones that I actually got a chance to go into and see. And I would like to thank Highland, Munster, and Michigan City Streets and Sanitation for their amazing job at plowing the streets and getting things ready. I was in a couple of other communities, even as early as Monday, and believe me, it was sad. But that's my rants and raves for this week, and I thank you. See you next week.
I noticed Jeff was shaking his head affirmative when you were talking about the covered. So how can
The snow.
how can they tell if a sheriff's deputy is about to?
That's right, you can't.
Do you want to deputize her now?
Yeah, that used to be Sheriff Lane's pet peeve. He'd always tell the guys that. Make sure you clear all the snow off your car.
I'm behind so many cars, and there's no way they can see me because there's nothing but snow.
Yeah.
So yeah, next time it's going to be flashing lights back there, and they're going to be sad that they didn't do that.
Yeah, the Hello Kitty mobile is going to pull
That's
them
right.
over.
Don't think it won't. When you see that blue car with the Hello Kitty stickers, you know who it is.
Oh yeah, and if you listen closely, you'll be able to hear a few choice words. So, with that, we're going to turn to our guest. First of all, we're going to start with you, Jeff. And why don't you share with us what is the role of the chief deputy at the Porter County Sheriff's Department?
Really, the sheriff's right-hand man. And, you know, when the sheriff's gone, just like we were talking before the show, sheriff is, you know, going downstate. You know, he just spoke this week at a Senate committee on a new bill that's coming up. And so I'm the guy there that has to fill in for the sheriff, whether it's meetings or it's asking about the budget or there's disciplinary procedures or any other administrative duties. You know, I'm that guy.
So you're saying Dave Reynolds is just the pretty face for the...
Oh, no. I've learned everything from him, that's for sure.
Are you listening to this, Dave? You got to get this guy a raise the next budget cycle. That's what you ought to do.
Yeah,
So
he's definitely a great guy to work for and to really, you know, learn from him. For sure.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Great guy. Before we get into much more of that, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, where you grew up and where you went to school and how you ended up in law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people know that I came from a family of a lot of law enforcement officers, my dad included. I went to Portage High School, graduated in '90, and then after school, I stayed around here. I went to IUN. And actually, my dad never wanted me to be a policeman. And my advice I got was from my Uncle Tim, who was a policeman. And so he directed me into the reserve program, and so I became a reserve, volunteered my time at the jail, and worked on the road for the county. So I started out in the jail, and then I got hired in the jail, worked in the jail for a year and a half, and then I got hired by Valpo City in '95. So after 4 years of working the road, I got assigned to the drug task force, and I worked actually narcotics. And so I would buy drugs from the drug dealers. And actually, back in '99, we were dealing with a lot of heroin issues then, too. And so we would follow kids that we knew that were heroin addicts up to Chicago and then wait for them to go into the high-rise and then come back across the county line, and we'd stop them.
Ooh,
and get
undercover
drugs
work.
on them. Yeah. And then we would try to get them to flip and take us up into the projects. And so there was one time that I got a guy that would take me up there, and I was able to buy heroin up in the projects under the authority of the housing projects. You know, they had a task force of feds and local police. But yeah, it was that was right before I got married, and my wife thought I was crazy for going up to Chicago in the projects and buying heroin.
I got to ask this question because, you know, I'm looking at you and you're this clean-cut guy, look like you may have been in the Marines or something, and I imagine, do you have to put a wig on or grow out a beard, or what do you have to do to be uncover?
I can't still really even grow facial hair now, but even back then, I had just a little bit of a goatee. My hair was a little bit longer, but I had like bleached it out, and I looked like one of the younger kids, so that kind of was to my benefit.
Right.
And so I was able to buy drugs without any problem.
Because right now, I mean, undercover for you would not work. I mean, the first thing I would think of is Okay, hide it. Where's the stash
Cheapers,
box?
the cops.
Yeah, boy. And by the way, if you ever want to notice a bunch of people hiding things, go into Steak and Shake at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Because at one time when I was in better shape, people told me I used to look like a cop. And I went in there with someone because we were trying to find a place to eat at 2 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, everyone looked up, and I noticed all this shuffling going underneath the table.
That's a clue.
Yeah, it's a clue. It's a clue. So well, let's go
We were
through.
trading Pokemon cards. That's what it was.
Yeah. There was very intense Pokemon game going
Yeah, I
on
can
because
imagine.
some of them, their eyeballs were like this, so we just sat down and I kept looking at them. I looked at every table, and everyone was all nervous. So you would do that. Go in 2
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning and see what
2
happens.
o'clock in the morning anymore. I'm in bed asleep.
Yeah, really. Me too.
Leave that to one of the deputies, right? So let's go through, and we're trying to get through this before our break, but let's go through each department within the sheriff's department, because as I was telling you, when Dave is on here, we're talking about specific issues, either the substance abuse problem in Porter County, which is huge, which we do want to talk to you about, or domestic violence, and but he never talks about the department, so I think with the guy here who runs the department, once you take us step by step going through a department, telling us how many folks are in it, what they
Sure.
do.
Sure. Well, it's kind of unique for me because when Sheriff Reynolds came in the first time, I was working undercover, and I decided I wanted to go work for Sheriff Reynolds because he was starting the SWAT team, K-9 programs, and so that was one thing that I wanted to be involved with all that. So I applied and got hired in 2000, and so Sheriff Reynolds has been around my career for a long time. He was able to he started putting young guys in the bureau, detective bureau, and so I stayed a short time on the road, 3 years, and then went right into criminal investigations. And so I've gotten to work, with those cases. I got to be in charge of the drug unit and over criminal investigations. And so I do have a good, knowledge of those different departments. So the detective bureau, we have 8 guys back there, and we work a wide range of cases. It's not only just your burglaries and mischiefs and thefts. Unfortunately, we have had murders occur, and so our guys, we have to get them trained to be able to handle those. So they get really good training back there as well. Some things back in the bureau, we have a voice stress computer. It's kind of like the polygraph, and so that's always fun to we'd bring people in for an interview, and then we'd sit them down in front of the computer and start to say, okay, we're going to do a voice stress test. Well, they would confess.
Hamina.
So that was a pretty good tool that we've had back there.
You just don't stick them in a room with Dave and they come out and confess the whole thing?
Well, that was his forte is criminal investigations and interviews. Yeah.
There are some stories about Dave.
I've always said I'm more comfortable sitting in a small room, one-on-one with a bad guy than maybe talking on a radio show. But
no, I have a cousin who used to be in the Gary Police Department, and he was on the homicide during the 60s and the 70s. His name was Joe Martin, and I guess they referred to him as the Dirty Harry of the area. I mean, the FBI would come to him and say, okay, we've got to serve this warrant, and just no problem. He'd go in, drag the guy out by no cuffs, he'd just hold him by the neck. But yeah, Joe was notorious.
Joe Maton, yeah.
Yeah, so but Dave has a few stories of his own from what I've heard.
Oh, yeah,
so
sure.
But it's great because I've never witnessed another person have commanding respect when he walks into a room from his deputies. And I talked to his deputies I used to work out with. A great guy.
Yeah.
So you've 8 detectives, did you say?
Yeah, 8 detectives, and then for the merit side, so just guys that are certified police officers, we have 66 officers. So there's 45 that work in the road patrol. We have 4 different crews. We have our midnight shift is just a solid, straight midnight shift, and then our 3 other crews rotate between days and afternoons.
Okay. Going back to the detectives, is there like some that are in different expertise, or are they geographically split up in those 8, or is it just one team that?
No, it's a general assignment. And so, we've talked about that in years past about maybe just having one that works up north. But I think that the way that we have, cases are assigned, one detective gets to know like what everybody else is working on too. And so it's nice to have a knowledge of what cases are going on in the whole county and not just in one certain area. Because as we know, bad guys don't stay in just one area. They're usually, hitting other places, and it's to be able to, to track and see where all the thefts are occurring or where all the burglaries are occurring instead of just having one detective do it.
Now, I know at BPD they had this. I assume they may have it at Porter County. Is there someone that is trained specifically for like cybercrime or cyber investigation?
Well, we have one guy that is better than probably most, and Gene Hopkins is really our IT techie guy. He also does like the cell phone dumps. And so anymore, the heroin overdose response team that the sheriff formed, we get so much information off those cell phones that we get from overdoses. You figure out like, who they recently bought their drugs from and, who their other associates are. And so that's a big part of our criminal investigations is the cell phone information.
So they get confiscated and they could do a dump on that. Great.
Yeah.
So let me think what others, and there are detectives that, I guess that is kind of uniform throughout the drug investigations for the Detective Bureau.
So now the sheriff has, assumed the Porter County Drug Task Force.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which we call our Porter County MEG unit now, multi-enforcement group. Because we have Valpo, we have Portage, and us, in one group, and they're actually at a separate location than our Detective Bureau.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they're spread. Now, is it that the Drug Task Force used to be representatives from a lot of the other departments? Am I correct, or?
It's really been, and actually I forgot to mention Chesterton. They're going to put another guy in, but it's typically been 2 from Portage, 2 from Valpo, 2 county, and then 1 from Chesterton.
Now, if I remember correctly, and this is kind of unusual, but because of the particular problem that we're experiencing in Porter County, Dave mentioned that there were some members of that task force that are actually in Chicago working on the task force there.
Those are even separate guys. We have guys that are
wow.
assigned to a DEA strike force team out of Chicago, and we have a guy assigned to the Haida group, which works more in like the Hammond area, and then we have a guy assigned to the Maryville DEA office. Wow. And so if you look at like the pathway that our drugs come into Porter County is that way.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
Like the sheriff has said, we're trying to get to the head of the snake, not the tail. And so we have guys positioned along that route up to Chicago that can help get it to the head of the snake.
Right. And we're going to talk about that later in the transition over to Jay. But, that is a problem. And as Sheriff Reynolds has mentioned many times, we can't, although it's the job of the Sheriff's Department to fight the crime, but it's almost a never-ending battle because they find ways around once you figure out where they're packing the drugs, they find another way. And in our roundtable discussions, we have to eliminate the market. That's the only way this is going to have an impact and slow the overdose deaths down. And that's, so, and I said, as we talked on our roundtable discussion, I said, that's where the community needs to work in conjunction with the police department. It can't be their total responsibility. We have to be aware and more of what kids are doing, and our family unit has changed over the years. So it was a scary discussion, those roundtables. We had about 5 of them, and and we had family members come on that, of people are struggling through addiction and discuss that. But so then we have the SWAT team.
Yeah, SWAT team. We have 15 members, and so 4 of those are from Valpo PD, and so we're a combined group. And we have and I think I was maybe saying this the other day. Back when we first started the team, we used to get we were averaging about 12 call-outs a year, and now it's gotten smaller than that. And so I think we've only had maybe 2 this year already. So which is more than we had last year. But yeah, that's that's a good resource to have. You know, there's a lot of times where, you know, the officers, and we only go to, like, you know, where an officer gets to the scene and says, hey, this is beyond my control. I need some other assistance. And so the SWAT team will go usually to, like, barricaded gunmen's, suicidal people that, you know, have weapons. We've gone to only a couple of times for, like, a high-risk warrant service. But our last couple ones were, what was the last one? Was a guy out of Hammond, or the guy that was a suspect in a Hammond case and had threatened the police, and we went there to detain him. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and I used to work out with some of those guys then, and believe me, people out there, you don't want to mess with these guys. They're pretty big. I mean, I'm talking about guys could clean and jerk 280 pounds like it was a feather. Yeah, some pretty big, beefy guys. Yeah, so I mean, they got picked for the SWAT team. A good place for them. I wouldn't want them breaking down my door. I'm gonna hide. So.
Yeah, we even acquired an MRAP. A big, like, military armored vehicle.
Oh.
And so I remember when we got it, it was like a beige color. And I had asked, and at the time I was in charge of the team, and I'd asked Sheriff Lane if we could paint it black. I said, because when we bring this, you know, vehicle into someone's, you know, front of their house, I want it to look like the biggest, meanest thing that it can look like, you know, to intimidate them. That way they just want to come out without having to, you know, do any violence.
I'm sorry, our next guest
That's
is
okay.
asking questions. So now, one thing I do remember from being with schools, the SWAT team came into some of the schools to practice in the schools. So does that still go on? And do you go to the different schools in the county?
Yeah, we've done it in Portage, down in Boone Grove, over in Wheeler, and a lot of those when we were doing most of those is back years ago when there was that shooter down in Texas at that military base, and it was one lone female that went inside and stopped the shooter, and so everybody kind of changed their way of doing, you know, responding to active shooters, and so that was one thing we wanted to make sure our officers and all the officers in the county knew, like, what a proper response is. So it was interesting because when we first started out, you know, that training, we would time them and we'd see how long it would take them to get to the shooter. And it was a long time because they're going real slow, methodical, checking corners. And now it's gone away from that. You know, what we teach is, you know, you need to get there quickly. You need to run to the sounds of gunfire. And so we cut down that response time for our guys. And that's what we've done to make sure all of our new guys are up to speed with that, when they how to respond to those situations.
So it's got to be like muscle memory. You respond to the noise and head that direction. So that's amazing. I still remember those drills, and yeah, they'd be in on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you'd hear them, you know, all of a sudden scream, drop it, and they use the pellet, the ammo. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. So what other departments are there? Do you have?
Well, probably a big one that is utilized actually more than our SWAT team is our bomb unit, our bomb team. They actually cover 7 different counties. They cover, just so I don't miss them, they cover obviously ours, Lake, Newton County, Jasper County, Pulaski County, LaPorte, and Stark County. And last year they had 25 different call-outs. They'll go up to Hammond for a pipe bomb, you know, or anything like that. And it's what they do is truly amazing. That has there is how many guys? 8. They have 8 guys that are assigned to that unit. 2 are actually from the Lake County Sheriff's Department. One's from Portage, and one's from Porter PD.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that on the video of the in Hammond when they had the pipe bomb in East Chicago, where the U.S. attorney was there, and then all of a sudden they announced the 2 guys that were part of that force that were from Porter County. So that was, I bet you're proud of those guys. They
absolutely.
Get used a lot in the area. So, and what type of equipment do they have? Do they have like a containment?
Well, they have even like a mobile X-ray machine where they can, you know, X-ray a package and see what's inside. They have a pretty big robot that we call Johnny 5, and
Johnny 5.
It can shoot like a water blast into a package or into, you know, a device to try to, you know, render it safe. But even that robot we've used on a SWAT call before. We had a guy that was shooting out at us, and so we didn't want to put officers in front of the house anymore, and we had the robot go in, and it was strong enough to actually pull the door off the hinges. That's how strong it was. And then we had to go inside and try to see where the shooter was.
So kind of like RoboCop.
Yeah, it
There
was.
you go.
It was actually pretty neat to watch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So remember out there, any of those perps sitting out there, we're going to send a RoboCop after you.
That's right.
So, can't hide,
Nope.
not from Porter County. So, so what, in the bomb unit, do they have like a special vehicle that they use as well, or?
Yeah, they have their own. Well, they have their own truck that has all their tools that they would need for it, and then they have a trailer. That I think what's in the trailer, is it where the Johnny Five is maybe?
Yeah, they put him in there.
But yeah, then they have their big suit that they wear. Yeah, it's pretty amazing what those guys do.
Yeah, dangerous work too. I tell you. Yeah, that pipe bomb in East Chicago. That was, I guess, a postal worker was. But were they being, because they were getting, for a while there were a lot of packages, and I know Mayor McDermott was talking about what stress his family was going through because they weren't sure who it was targeting, and his family or his brother. And so they virtually had to open a lot of the packages, every suspicious package they came to, which is a shame. I mean, it's a shame that you get to that point that people are, but that's where our society is. You know, unfortunately, there are people that want to do that, or people that want to scare someone, and I just, you've got to wonder what their mental position is and why they want to do that.
Yeah.
So we got some time before our break, so what about any other department? Is there, like, do you guys have, no, you don't have paramedics?
No.
No.
You know, the unique thing about the Sheriff's Department is that we basically have the Patrol Division, you have the Detective Bureau. But all those guys really do something else. You know, they're assigned to the SWAT team, or they do, or they're crime scene techs, or they're assigned to, you know, a bike patrol unit, or a motorcycle patrol unit. Within our Patrol Division, we have a truck that has the heavyweight scales, so he can do commercial motor vehicle stuff. And then a lot of these guys are school resource officers too. And we also have an honor guard team that they're assigned to. So you have like one guy who wears many hats, and that's how we're able to do so much at the Sheriff's Department. Is we have a lot of guys that step up and volunteer to be part of those programs.
That's great. So when you go back to, and you don't have a helicopter, I don't think.
No.
Right? So, but there's another rescue helicopter, I think, that's available to the county. So let's see. Now, getting back to training, because it's interesting, you guys have some pretty big facilities that you have to look after. You know, you've got USG, is it? And then you also have the recycling plant just right next door to the corner. So do you have to periodically go in there and train in there in case there's a hostage situation, or do you just advise them, you know, some things that be prepared?
You know, there has been some businesses that we've been at, and I remember years ago we went to it was actually First National Bank at the time, and we were doing, like, you know, different scenarios in there to get familiarize ourselves with that. I don't think we haven't done much of that lately. I think a lot of the training they've done lately has been at the MAC Center.
We even trained on the airplane.
Oh yeah, yeah, over in Gary on the whose plane was that? That was Popovich.
Yeah,
the 747,
Mhm.
where you could come in there and train.
Oh, yeah. So they allowed you Popovich allowed you guys to use that. Now, it's an interesting thing that while we're going to have it up to our station break, we'll mention after station break the MAC Center, which has been a huge resource that the Macmillans have put together. So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Right now, we'll go to station break, and we'll be back shortly.
You are listening to The Bill Moran Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM and streaming live at WVLP.org or on your TuneIn app. We are broadcasting live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill Moran Show is underwritten by Recovery Works of Maryville, Indiana. If you or a loved one are struggling with a drug or alcohol problem, please call us at 866-535-4673. Now, back to your host, Bill Moran.
Okay, yes.
All right, welcome back. And so what we wanted to do is talk a bit about the Max Center that is now available to you guys for training. Do you want to talk to us about that and how you guys are able to utilize that?
Yeah, Mr. McMillan, he's really opened it up. I mean, it's at first you initially think, is this just going to be a fire, training facility? But he's really opened it up to our teams too. And last time I was over there, they had said, hey, whatever you guys want, if you guys want us to build something out extra for you guys, then just let us know. So the way he's opened his doors for us and just let us be in there. I think the last training we did was, did we do Sims training over there with the SWAT team? Which is, real good for our guys to be able to have that right in our back door.
Yeah, it's amazing. The Mellons have opened up. It's near their plant, am I correct? I haven't been out there yet.
Yeah, it's just east of their plant. Yep.
So, and they also have classrooms there, so you can go through training as well. And which, I mean, the Porter County Sheriff's Department has a pretty good facility as well. But it's always nice having something like that in your backyard you could go to and cross train maybe with rescue teams for fire departments. And I think that's a good idea. So, hats off to the McMillans for opening up to the county and really all over the area. And there are people coming all from the state of Indiana. So that's great. I think is there any other department that we've not talked about?
No, just a big part of the Sheriff's Department is really becoming the chief. Once I became the Sheriff's chief, one thing you realize it's so important is the jail. Because when I was in charge of the Detective Bureau, I just would lock guys up. I mean, I would just arrest them and they put them in jail. So didn't really know what happened to them once they went in the jail. But that's one thing I've been able to do and see is how much the sheriff really is involved with the jail. I mean, even with the programs that he started, and we talked a little bit about the heroin problem, and one thing that I've heard sheriff repeat over and over again is really we try to take like a three-prong approach to the heroin problem. We've stepped up enforcement with our guys that are assigned to the different task forces leading up to Chicago. We've done 2 heroin videos that the sheriff goes and shows to the kids in the schools, even as young as 5th graders, to try to let them know, like, this is not something that you need to even mess with. And then the treatment that we provide in the jail, and which I think is a good segue to Jay, because the treatment programs that we offer in the jail are like probably not too many other jails in the state probably do what we do in the jail with the programs.
Now, that's one thing I've got to say from a citizen standpoint, looking in. When I think of the Porter County Sheriff's Department, I think of someone that, of course your business is law enforcement and you want these people to have respect for you. But I don't think they have appreciation for Sheriff Reynolds and the entire department. Even your perp, you come in with a substance abuse problem. His goal is to help you. Yeah, sure, you are a law enforcement agency that you have to keep them incarcerated. But the thing is, as we move on to Jay and hear about all the programs, I think it's a very healthy approach to have. Yeah, you may be incarcerated, but we're going to try to get you to a spot to where you can be a functional human being so you don't end up in here. And that's something I haven't seen in a lot of departments in the area. And that's justifiably so, because if you take that action, you don't want people to come back. And then there's the budget issue, which is that we've got limited budget. You can't keep going back. And the thing is, if you have an uprising in drug enforcement arrests and incarcerations, that's going to be heavily impacted because you have to provide services to those. So, having that mindset of helping people out and being their advocate, because that's why I look at it from a citizen's standpoint. You guys are advocates for these people. You're not there to make sure that they're being punished, although you're making sure that they do through their incarceration. But that's and that probably is a good segue into you, Jay. And but I just want to make sure. Do you think we got everything covered? You want to talk about Dave more? Any stories about Dave you want to share?
No.
No. No,
I'll
no
pass on that.
Davisms? You don't want to share any Davisms? No. Don't want to get yourself in trouble,
That's right.
No.
Why would you
He
say
wants
that?
to keep his job.
Yeah.
Or not have to be in a room alone with Dave and say,
There you
"Now,
go.
why did you say that?"
Yeah.
I was just joking, sir. So,
I will say this. I used to say that Sheriff Rollins was the second best policeman I've ever met.
yeah.
My dad being my number one, and seeing what he does now, being this close to him, but part of his administration, he does more than probably most people even know what he does. So
Right.
and he can run circles around most of us.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
in good shape for a guy, and that's when he re-anteed up, which I think everyone knows now. There was a big sigh of relief because the problems that this county is having, and his attitude in attacking them, is just unbounded. It's not that the other sheriffs have been any less, but he's intense. He's
Yes.
Yeah,
very
he is.
intense with the what he wants to do, and he has a very open approach to things, and he is intimidating, I'm sure, especially if he gets angry at you. But I've always tried to stay on that side, especially when he tells me to do something. Like when we were sitting here, and after the substance abuse roundtable, he came up to me and said, "Now, Bill, we've got to do this for domestic violence." And I couldn't even think of no when he came up. He says, "Yes, sir, whatever you want." So so you always do what the sheriff tells you to do. So
you
you'll
go.
be in a good place. So Jay, we're going to move on to you. And first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into your role at the county.
Well, I've been with the sheriff's office. I was with the sheriff's office as a volunteer for 13 years. Then the sheriff came to me and said he wanted me full time, and I'd pastored for about 30 years, and I was operating as the chaplain more so than anything at the sheriff's office for those volunteer years. The latter years, I started to work with some of the programs and so on, and so I've been with the sheriff's office full time now for 3 years. And my job has been not only as a chaplain, but it's expanded to overseeing all the programs and keeping an eye on things and looking at where we can go from here in regards to our helping those that are incarcerated. And one of the things that you said is you talked about our aggressive approach, and we do have an aggressive approach just from the standpoint of just from the standpoint of these folks that are incarcerated are not from usually aren't from out of our communities. So that means that we're looking at those that are struggling with addictions and so on from a community.
I'm sorry, one of our
That's right.
guests.
One of our guests
You
is
betcha,
here.
one of our guests, our four-legged guest, right?
hairy guest. Boy,
Yeah.
go. I'm sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
all right. So anyway, we're looking at, we talk about the addiction issues and so on. There's no more lines anymore. It just seems like there's no more socioeconomic lines anymore like there used to be. So that means that these folks are going to be the ones living next door to you or working with you at your job and even going to church with you. So this is a problem that a society, that a whole community needs to address. And that's kind of the approach the sheriff has taken with this, is that we're not here just to keep people in jail, just to house them and feed them until they've served their time. We have an opportunity, a golden opportunity, to help as many as we can with programs, and that's what we've done. That's been the whole idea, for our programs at the sheriff's office.
You have a fan that just came in.
How about
that?
Yes,
Yeah,
is
that's
a
great.
huge fan, so as we all should be. So, now let's talk about some of the different educational programs that you get involved in.
Sure.
First of all, substance abuse,
Right.
and you work in close hand in hand with PACT, and Frontline is now
And
a partner.
Porter Stark.
Porter Stark.
Right.
And this gentleman here is going to be our next guest here, which we're going to talk about him.
I just want to say thank you, okay, because you guys get this, all right? You guys get it, all right? I just recently worked with Captain Taylor at Porter County Jail, and you guys allowed one of the consumers, residents, to leave jail and go into treatment. So I just really want to thank you guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get it. You get it. You recently got involved in the Angel program, okay? With I think the chaplain at the jail is leading that up, is heading that
That's
up.
me.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
you?
that's me.
Okay, you're heading it up, right?
Yeah.
So we're supposed to meet. Okay.
Okay, good deal. Yeah.
So,
And that's what we were just talking about, is this department can easily be a model for the way departments should run across the state or in the United States, so.
I am part of the Angel program in LaPorte with the old chief Adam Kunzak. Okay, and I helped develop that program up there, so I want to be involved.
You bet. Sounds great.
So let's talk a bit about some of the substance abuse programs. So a person comes in that's incarcerated for substance possession, be it usage or probably they're dealing, what have you, and usually the dealers are users themselves. So what type of thing do they go through once they've been incarcerated? And maybe talk about some of the pre-classifications from the court that they come into the jail with and how you deal with those.
Well, we have some of the folks in programs are court ordered. Our judges are very pleased with the programs that we're offering because it gives them more options in regards to rehabilitation. So we have a lot of our judges that are court ordering a number of those incarcerated into our programs, particularly drug treatment. We not only that though, we have domestic violence and what we call men embracing change, which is it's kind of the male version of a domestic violence, and that's all in cooperation with the Caring Place. And the Caring Place, we were able to receive to get a big grant from the state to run all these programs. And so we were able to pull in a lot of different organizations out there to help us with it. And so it really is a community project. It really is. And we are just blessed to have all the folks in our county that are really excited about getting involved and so on. And PACT and Porter Stark and Frontline and the Caring Place and a lot of the churches that are involved as well too, and we're excited about that. We're excited to see the folks that have gotten involved.
Yeah, and talking about domestic violence again, Dave came up to me after we did our substance abuse and said, "Bill, we need to talk about the second largest problem in Porter County." And I said, "Are you trying to tell me something, Dave, or what?" And so he said no, and after trying to guess what it was, and he said domestic violence, and that began the entire, and although it does not escalate as much as the substance abuse, but and coming back to the sheriff's deputies, boy, what a volatile problem. Because I know some deputies say that they would much rather go in to arrest someone, a drug user or armed robbery, than having to deal with a domestic violence situation. In fact, there's some officers, was it in Denver or Colorado, that lost their lives responding to a domestic violence.
Right.
And the problem that, in talking to some of the sheriff's deputies is you walk in and things appear to be volatile and you think it's under control, and all of a sudden things escalate and someone pulls out a gun. And, they normally don't come in guns drawn, but, half the time you wonder if they should, because it's an extremely volatile situation.
I have to wonder, do we have any statistics on how many domestic violence calls we are that we answer in a year? Do you have
The
any
sheriff
idea?
had that. We had those figures. It was quite a bit. I mean, it's more than you would think that we respond to.
In fact, I should have. I've got those numbers somewhere, at least from last year. I know it was like 171 incarcerated from a particular year, but that is kind of misleading because there's far more domestic violence reports and things that don't get indicted. In fact, that's the other problem we have is we had Judge Harper on here. The problem is they start the cases out, all of a sudden, boom, charges are dropped for no apparent reason. Can't find out. Next thing you know, a month later, they're back in the court again. And so,
So many are linked as well too. I mean, you almost can't take addiction separate from domestic violence as well too, because they're always so linked.
Yes.
Right.
they are.
And so you end up dealing with. That's why we try to get a well balanced approach to our programs, is because they're all linked one way or the other.
so you're saying something he doesn't like because he's going to turn us off the air. That's okay. We've got an engineer here already, Belle. Yeah, we'll get to you. Don't worry. I know. We'll interview you. We got some questions. Yeah, so that, I mean, again, the numbers are not as drastic as substance abuse, but it is an alarming problem. And the other problem we have is the poor ladies and men, because right now we have a house that is 100 years old, and I think they're getting close to getting their funds to build.
They're getting
and-
close, right?
But the reoccurring thing is, and again, same thing with the drug abuse. Once these guys are in there, you teach them the way to
Right.
be respectful, and that's something as a very early age. When I was a kid, it just drummed respect in for females. I, at the ripe old age of I think 4 or 5. I was the only boy in the family. I had 2 sisters just abused the heck out of me, and got away with it. By the way, it was psychological, way off the scale. I think I shared some of the things that they did, and they don't acknowledge any of this now.
Of course not.
No.
Well, that wasn't domestic violence then.
I challenge you on that. Whether my sisters are listening, it was domestic violence, and you're lucky the statute of limitations has expired.
And he's still waiting for his sleeping bag, by the way,
Yeah,
Terry.
yeah. Oh, don't. That's a whole show. Teresa, I'm still waiting 45 years later, and I don't
that
want to see
sleeping
it appear at again on TV, them sliding across in the mud at where am I thinking about?
Woodstock.
Woodstock, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know that
Yeah.
thing. That's my sleeping bag that you see them using as a slide when they slide across
is
the
that
mud.
right?
Mine.
Okay, it's
His sleeping bag that his sister
Did I ever
took.
get reimbursed for it? No.
No.
It's Teresa. We have law enforcement officials here now. So where were we? Besides getting my sister arrested.
Somebody has a question.
Yes,
Thank you.
it was a flannel sleeping bag, if that's what you're going to ask.
No, that wasn't what I was going to ask, but I was going to ask, is you mean like for real, on the picture that you see from Woodstock and they're sliding down, that was really yours?
Yes, I'm going to claim that was mine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Wait, you think it was cool?
Yeah.
I didn't even get to use that thing. It was like my sister came to me. So you know the sleeping bag you just got for Christmas? Yeah. Well, can I borrow it? I said, no, you're not. Well, next thing I know, my dad's coming up to me, putting his arm around me, and saying, Billy, you're going to let your sister use the bag. That is the last. I didn't even use it. It is criminal.
So back to the domestic violence calls. Do you folks have CIT trained officers on staff?
Yeah, all of us went through that.
You all went through it?
Yeah, we all went
Good.
through it. It was mandated
Okay.
for our whole department.
Excellent.
We did
Excellent.
that, was it the beginning of last year?
I think so.
And then you use Spillman, or no?
No, we used Tiburon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you documenting, calls that come in, what type of call that's coming in? I work with the CIT down in Gary, so I'm just curious.
Well, Tiburon is our Spillman.
Okay.
So it's the in-house database that, keeps all the calls for service, and you could do a query based on just, domestic violence, if that's what you're asking, something like that.
So you have officers who go out and de-escalate as opposed to, jail diversion kind of thing is what you.
Well, all of our officers, we hope, can de-escalate a situation. I mean, the last thing we want to do is fill up our jail.
Right.
You don't arrest your way out of problems.
Boom.
You just don't. I mean, arresting people is part of the job, and it's it has to be done. But our whole goal, even with, we talk about this, the opioid crisis and so on. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem, and that's the and you've heard the sheriff say that a number of times, I'm sure, and so all of the training we do always has an element of let's see, what can we do to de-escalate? What can we do to turn this around? Can we talk this through? Can these two talk this through, and so on? And we do that even in the jail. We do that. I mean, sure. We it's not just a slamming of a door and just saying you get in here for a while, but it is you learn the art of trying to de-escalate as best you can.
That's wonderful. I say, we find ourselves in a place of punishing symptoms when we should be treating causes, mm-hmm. and I know that Porter is heading in that direction. If you're not already there, leaning towards treating the causes mm-hmm. and not punishing the symptoms. Mm-hmm. That's huge. I'm convinced that criminality and mental illness are entwined. And we'll talk more.
I know Chuck Harris, who I think his term limits for coroner are end, right. So he's going to move on. But oh man, that poor guy. He has worked this county through. But one thing, his last report that he published in the newspaper was this problem has escalated to the point where all hands need to be on deck.
Right.
Not just the police department, the community, the municipalities within the county have to be on board with what's going on, and every organization that provides services has to be talking to each other to find out that there's no redundancy, that they're all moving towards one focused effort. Because it's alarming. The statistics when Chuck Harris was on the show with our group, this county actually is eclipsing Lake County in per capita deaths related to drug abuse. And that's scary to think that county is 3 times the population of Porter. The only difference is we do have a higher upper middle class. There's more economic resources available to buy those drugs, and that's why it is happening. Well,
we're even, you asked me early on before we got on about the Vivitrol program, for instance. Vivitrol is a medicated assisted treatment program, which is not a drug replacement, but it basically puts a lid on the receptors so that someone that's involved in opioids will not receive that high that they get, and also someone that has an alcohol problem will not experience that buzz, so to speak. And we look at that and we say, okay, that's one of those things where we're trying everything that we can to keep these folks alive. It's helping to curb some of the cravings for it as well too. And it is Vivitrol is not all over the state. In fact, there's only a handful of counties that have a Vivitrol program at this point in time. And it's a once every 30-day shot. So it's not an every day. You don't have to go in there every day or so on. It's once every 30 days. And the state program is covering a lot of it. So it's financially feasible as well.
Right, but it doesn't indefinitely cover it, it becomes a problem. And after a while, there has to be some, and it's not an inexpensive drug either. No. But it is one of the programs. So step away through it. It is a court-ordered program, right?
It is. Our program is a court-ordered program. Now, someone can go to a treatment provider such as Porter Stark and sign up for a Vivitrol program there. Our program, though, is supervised because we feel it very important that they have treatment alongside of it. Vivitrol is not an end-all kind of a thing, but it is to walk alongside of treatment and accountability. And so ours is a supervised program, supervised by probation. In fact, part of our Vivitrol team, we have at least 2 to 3 probation people on our team all the time, and so it is supervised, and we want these folks to get better. That's just where it's at.
And that's what it makes the difference in this department, I think. So the Vivitrol program, that just started not too long ago, am I correct?
Correct. It's been going for probably about 3 months now.
Right. And I know Dave described it was pretty tedious process to get everyone on board. The judges, the prosecutors, everyone had to be on board with this particular program. And so can you share with us what type of numbers are coming out maybe on a monthly basis, weekly? How many people are receiving that treatment?
Well, as we said, it's just gotten started. Right now, presently, we have 5 people on Vivitrol. They seem to be doing well at this point. We have had 2 that have relapsed. Not out of those 5, we've had a total of 7, but 2 have relapsed. So there's 5 on right now that seem to be doing well. And again, this is one of those situations that Vivitrol is supposed to help curb those desires a bit too. But the sweet spot on Vivitrol is probably 60 to 90 days. That's where you really see the positive effects of Vivitrol. And so some of them haven't made it to that time, but we are hoping that by being supervised and by being a part of the treatment, being part of either with Porter Stark or Frontline, our treatment providers, that we can have some success with it.
Right, and one thing with Recovery Connection that Megan's a part of, wish you were here today, but yeah, we'll have you guys back on, is that's also an important process to provide activities for these people, social activities and so on, because that is actually a key factor that you could have someone going to relapse if they're not socially active. They become isolated and they want to get away from that feeling. So what do? Start using again.
The judges court order quite a few to what we have called the therapeutic community as well. A therapeutic community is about 15, 16 guys that live together 24/7, but they not only have, they have the same intense chemical dependency and addictions program, but they also deal with things such as Thinking for a Change, which deals with the way you think.
That saved my life, that program.
Is that right?
It did.
And we have a Nurturing Fathers program in there, teaching them how to be good fathers and so on. And so it's, like I said, it's kind of we try to look at the big picture as best we can.
That's great. Now, getting back to the substance abuse, one of the things, and this involves your area, Jeff, one of the things that started happening about 2 years ago is the introduction of fentanyl into not only cocaine, but being sold straight fentanyl, which is insane. It is a animal tranquilizer. Yeah, one of the worries was, and we saw it over into a neighboring state, where a sheriff's deputy actually, by touching a small portion of it, OD'd. So can you discuss what preventive measures that the deputies have to go through and when they roll up on like a suspicion of fentanyl?
Yeah, we actually had an overdose where, and he actually came to and said that he believed it was fentanyl because he was, he could take heroin and heroin didn't affect him like this. So when he came to, he's like, it's got to be fentanyl. So our guys, really didn't want to. We actually partnered with the hazmat, Porter County Hazmat, who provide us with suits, like cloth suits, rubber gloves, masks, and they went into the bedroom like that, like they're hazardous material, officers, just so they make sure that they didn't come in contact with it at all. Another thing we started to do too is we noticed that, like when they would come in, when our officers would come in and bring drugs, whether it's cocaine, heroin, whatever, they come into our patrol room and they set it on the table, and they would process their evidence there, take photographs of it, put it in paper bags, seal it up, and then put it in evidence. Well, that same table was the same table. If you brought in a plate of cookies for the officers, we put it on there too.
Yikes.
And so when this scare came out,
You got to move the break room. That's my suggestion. Move the break room.
when this scare came out, I actually went to the sheriff. I'm like, we need to stop this practice of doing this, and we moved all of our evidence processing into one separate room, and we also got a vent. That way, if they need a package or process it, they can do it underneath that vent. It's just low pulling air, and that way, if you do have any particles, because it's the particles, it may be an airborne particle that maybe comes out of a bag that gets in your eye or your nose or your mouth. That's how these guys are overdosing on. Officers are overdosing on it. So we've taken measures. Even TrueNarc is another thing that we have where you don't even have to touch it and open it can zip, a laser goes right through the bag and can tell you what kind of drugs are in that package. So we're taking steps to make sure our officers don't get infected with that.
And the reason I bring that up, I want everyone to appreciate what you guys go through. And this problem is spreading in ways that you just would never imagine. The law enforcement officials being put in harm's way, and then also trying to look after the person that they're ZODing is, then the Narcan. They're trained in how to use Narcan, and so there's a lot of saved lives out here because of these guys. Well, we come to the end of our hour, so I can't tell you how much we appreciate you two coming on, and it's good to hear about the sheriff's department now. Even though we've had the sheriff here for like eight episodes, so but yeah, I appreciate everything you guys do and everything you do on behalf of the citizens, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And we'll hope to have you on again.
That's for sure.
Thank you. And we are going to close out the show. We are going to transition into Recovery Radio and talk to our next guests. There's two guests.
There's 2 guests.
So thanks again, and we will see you in just a bit. Welcome back. This is Bill Moran, and we are now in Recovery Radio. And we want to welcome our next guests. We have with us Roger Hayward, and we're going to be talking to him in just a bit. But I do want to tell you a little bit more about this radio show that we're kind of rebranding, if you will. And Megan Johnson, who is actually the host, is in Europe right now on vacation, much-deserved vacation. But she will be back with us next week. But this show is primarily topics about recovery, the process itself, resources that are available in the county and beyond, as well as we are going to start talking about entertainment, actually having recovery genre music, where we're going to turn this into a music show and have some guys come in and spin some music for us and talk about their stories. So what we're trying to do is make this kind of like a holistic approach to recovery. We're talking a person that's been in recovery herself. She said it's about time. We talked about the problem about getting in recovery. Now it's time to focus on post-recovery and the things that need to keep people sustained and active socially and so on. So with that, I would like to welcome our guest, Roger Hayward. Welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me in, Bill.
No problem. And we've been Facebook friends, and I've been kind of anxious to have you on anyway because you provide a very, I think, important service to the community. And so why don't you tell our listeners what exactly, first of all, let's talk about you, what your background is, where you grew up, and how you got to where you're at now.
Thank you. So if I heard you right, we've graduated now from FBFs to BFFs? Are we BFFs?
I'd say so.
Yeah, we've never met face to face, but yeah, if you want to be, no problem.
I'm teasing. I was just being funny.
Yeah, and I'm a dog lover, so.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, that's what he was probably doing underneath here. We have
Sniffing.
two dogs
We
at
have our
home.
two dogs.
Okay. Well, Sam is my therapy dog. Not so much for me, but he does keep me at peace. But he's
sure.
More for the guys when I'm with and around the guys. And I say therapy dog because he is unconditional love. Okay, and that's what none of us really experienced growing up. So you want to hear a little bit about me, right?
Yes.
Is that what you want? Okay.
Yes.
So I was born in Boston. I don't remember much about the birth, but I know that it happened.
Are you a Patriots fan? Yes,
Yeah,
you
he
are.
is. He's a Pats
I am a
fan.
Patriots fan.
I guess
did you
I should
notice?
look.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can't just take it and throw it away because they lost. They got 5. We'll get,
That's
we'll get
right,
6 next year. So at about 3 years old or so, my father left us, and my mother was saddled with about 9 of us. Okay, and it was tough for her, from what I understand. We moved back and forth then from New England, from Boston. I was born in the projects on the south side, to Pennsylvania, then back up to Boston, then back to Pennsylvania. It was pretty, it was very dysfunctional, okay? So, I, like about 90% of those incarcerated, was without a father early on, and a true father for pretty much the rest of my life. I did have a stepfather that stepped up and, took the reins of all of us. God bless him. He's in heaven. We made amends. So it was back and forth from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania, back to Boston, back to Pennsylvania, until finally at the age of about 13, my sister came to the school I was going to. It was a junior high school, with a bag, and it had a T-shirt and a pair of pants, and I think pajamas or something. And her message to me was from my mother. God bless her. She's waiting for me in heaven as well. And her best thinking was, tell Roger don't come home. And that was her best thinking, okay, because of some of the abuse I would, suffer at home. And I was the son of a gun. I assure you I wasn't easy to live with. I wanted it my way. I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. And sometimes I thought I got it. Well, this particular time I didn't get it. So I went to live with a sister, I believe, in Beverly, and then I lived with another sister. Then I slept outside. Then I slept on the beach, and started to get involved in the criminal system, if you will. Let me back up a little bit. When I was about 8 years old or so, I remember opening the refrigerator, and there would be like a 40. They call it a GIQ, a 40-ouncer, in there. And I can remember taking the top off of it and hiding behind the refrigerator door and just guzzling, the beer that was in there. I can remember that. I can remember my parents, like sliding the glass when they'd be drinking their beer with the head on it, the foam, right? And they'd let us, slurp the foam off the top of the glass. That was just, something that was normal. I was starting to like feeling good, outside of what normal people, maybe you, Bill, if you're kind of normal, right? You feel good. You feel good.
Without even looking in her direction, I could imagine what her facial expression.
So
And if my sisters, I've just talked
Right.
about if they were here, they
Right.
probably, God, it sounds like he's talking about Bill.
right?
Yeah, I'm right
hear
with
ya.
you, brother.
Yeah, I kind of left school, if you will, at that age, because at 13, you know, I get basically a pass. I don't have to come home, so no one's over me to make me go to school. So I basically left school at about 13. Then I remember going back, and we scaled the front of the building, front of the school building, and I was so mad at them for no real reason other than what a 13-year-old or 14-year-old might be mad at teachers for.
Sure.
Okay, scaled the front of the building. I remember we got in the window, and I trashed the school. So I got my first visit in a overnight or
Over
a
to
couple nights
juvie.
stay in a juvie kind of situation. From there, I graduated, I guess you would say, to airplane glue, right? And I can just remember being high as a kite back when when someone was using your blanket to slide down the mud hill in Woodstock. It was about that time. From airplane glue, it went to weed, and it was pretty much just an everyday thing. When I was about 14 or 15, I guess my brother took me in down in Millersville, Pennsylvania, and I became a milkman's helper. But by that time, I was living in not a dorm, but what do you call that? A fraternity, like with a bunch of, you know, fraternity guys. And here I was like 14 or 15, and very impressionable, I guess you would say.
Sure.
You know, I want to be like you, all right? Not Mike. I want to be like them.
Right.
I should have wanted to be like Mike. Maybe things would be a little different. But I probably wouldn't be sitting here either
That's
if I
true.
wanted to be like Mike then. I believe the Lord planned every step, you know, for me to be here. So I went to work as a milkman's helper. Then I got a pizza making job, and I stayed down here in Pennsylvania for a little while. Then I ended up hitchhiking back up to Massachusetts, and got a job in another pizza place. And they kind of took me in. They kind of fathered me, if you will. Greek family. God bless them. You know, they know family, okay?
Yeah, they do.
And so they took me in, and they gave me a job, and they let me live in this room that was up above the Beverly House of Pizza was the name of it. And Katarakis was his name. Kostas Katarakis was his name. So John Patalis, if you're listening, you know where it came from now. So they took me in. They took me in as their own. And but they weren't really watching me, right? And I kind of slid over to the side and started copping weed. Started breaking bags up into, you know, sellable portions, and that's how that piece kind of started, as far as that goes. Oh Lord, I guess now I could maybe fast forward about 20 years or so of just dysfunction and addiction and everyday use. You talked about fentanyl earlier. Fentanyl is what finally took me out at the very end. I had a short period, a few years of recovery. Now I don't say sobriety because I believe that sobriety and recovery are two different things. I believe that sobriety is a state of mind. You know, if I'm thinking clear and doing things correctly and doing the right things, okay, you know, I might be sober. But if I'm just abstinent, you know, that's a whole nother, in my opinion, okay. So I hurt my back, okay, and after a period of recovery, and I don't believe that I was really sober because I think I planned this in kind of a weird kind of way, if that makes any sense to anybody.
It does, actually.
So when the doctor said Vicodin, I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay? And I knew better. See, there's a piece of me. I had enough clean time, right, to know that it wasn't a good idea for me to take anything, any mood or mind-altering substance, you know. So I remember taking the first one. I got like a prescription of like 30 or something. They were supposed to last me for like 6 days or 10 days, whatever it was. But I remember taking the first one, all right, and that was the beginning of the end for me. I took the first one, it basically tasted like the next one, okay? And I just wanted, I wanted more of that feel good, because I still wasn't grounded. I still wasn't spiritually connected. I was still wanting things my way, you know, so I wanted more of the good feeling. And that's what Vicodin gave me. So after about, oh Lord, probably 3 or 4 days, I went back into the doctor and I said, Doc, you know, my back really hurts. And so he said, well, you must be in some pain. We gave you enough for, you know, 10 days, and here you are 3 days later. So I'll be a son of a gun. They gave me another script. And I was off to the races with another script. And this continued to happen to a point where every time I got back, I started to understand what they wanted. And the very first thing you did was get on the scale. And they figured, well, if he's keeping his weight up, he must be okay. So what I started doing was I'd be putting, like John Prine said in his song, rocks in my pocket and dirt in my shoes, okay, to keep my weight up. So that, because that's how smart I was.
Yeah.
See? And that got me to the next prescription, hydrocodone. They tried to cut me down a little bit then, and I was starting to shop doctors, okay, because that's what you do. You find another doctor to give you what you want.
Right.
And then finally, that all ran out. They caught on to me, I guess you could say. So I got smart, okay? I found a cancer patient who was prescribed fentanyl, okay? And these were 1,200 milligram fentanyl lollipops. If any of the listeners out there can appreciate what I'm talking about, then you already know. But I was eating probably enough animal tranquilizer. Actually, I think they're for elephants or something like that. I was eating maybe 2 1,200 milligram fentanyls, all right, and also copping some Oxycontins. They were 80s, all right, so I was eating those. By this time, I was the kind of guy who would show up at the bar, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning. When I walked in, if someone was leaving, they'd turn around and keep in because the party was about to begin. You know, that was just me. You know, doing lines off the back of a crusty toilet, selling my weed at the bar. And honest to gosh, this went on from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd say to the bartender, you know, hey, give me a couple 6-packs, and I'd take a couple of unknown people back to my place, and the party was about to begin. Okay, so this went on for another 4 years about, until finally at the very, very end, by the grace of God. I always had a dog around, as you can see. But I always took care of the dog as best I could. Today I take care of him differently. He eats like regular people, or not people food, but he eats regular food, and he gets water, and you know, once in a while I give him a treat. But so I was, in my opinion, taking care of my dog that I had at the time, and I was so strung out. If I was going out, it would be out for 2 or 3 days, just on a run, okay, till I come back. All right, so this one particular time, I was, I wanted to take care of my dog. So my best thinking was, well, Roger, you got some cornflakes up there, and okay, so put some cornflakes down for him, because you know you're not coming back, so he needs to eat. So I put some cornflakes on the floor. I remember making piles of them and a couple bowls of water, all right, and I left to go do what I did. A couple days later, I guess I came back, and I was a mess. I assure you, I was a mess. All right, I can assure you, I was a mess. Urine soaked, and just, I knew it was time to go do something different. So anyway, I come back to the place, and there's my dog. He had urinated on this thing I was sleeping on. It was like this couch, but I had, you know, some cushions and pillows and stuff, and so that made me really mad. Think about it, okay? I just left the dog for 3 days, all right? And I'm mad at him for peeing on my pillow, okay? So when I saw that, I smacked him in the backside, okay? And so he went running over under the couch, I remember, and he turned around. He was kind of like this. I know they can't see me out there, but he's just on his paws, you know? And I lost it, man.
They can't see you.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
they
can.
can see it.
Yeah,
Hey,
you're on.
Yeah, we're streaming live on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So when I saw him like that, I just lost it. It was like, have you ever had like a good snot-nosed cry? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you know, those are like the best, man. All right, so I just lost it. I just started crying, and I fell back. And what do you think I fell on? I fell
Urine
on. I fell on
soaked
the
pillow. Yeah.
urine-soaked pillow. Okay, so there I was, and it even started to get worse. And when that happened, my dog came running up. When he saw me down there, he came running out beside me, and he got in under, and he started lifting my arm up like this. Now remember what I just did to him. I just smacked him in the backside. All right, it's kind of like what I would do to Jesus every day. I just smack him in the face, and you know, God's unconditional love is always there for me. So the light went on, for me. Wow, Jesus, okay? Because I had a relationship, right? But I blew it. I walked away, all right? And when that happened, just somehow the light went on, Bill, and I had a cell phone, and there was a charge on it, and I was able to make a phone call. It made no sense because I paid no attention to any of that stuff, I promise you, right? But the light came on, and I called my pastor, right? And he answered the phone. He came, and he literally dragged me out of there, okay? He dragged me out of there. And they put me in this place. I was too dirty to go in the house, okay? So they put me in this place until I sobered up a little bit. Then I pretty much got a GI shower, if you will. They brought me in. I got a job at this place, and about 2 weeks after I got the job, I was arrested, okay, for something that I had done while I was out there, okay? And this was the beginning of the end. This was about 17 years ago. Okay, the beginning of the end of my run. I was arrested and put in jail. While I was in my holding cell, I'm in there singing praise songs, right? I'm singing songs to the Lord, and I'm like, because I was free, man. I was like, I knew that this time I was done, okay? Keep this in mind. The Lord, I play guitar. I have it here. And the Spirit
And
moves.
we're going to hear.
You're
going to play something for us, right? Later.
hope so.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. I'll
That'd
do
be
one at
great.
the end. That'll be cool. Thank you for letting me do that.
Oh, this station
So,
loves music.
Okay.
Good to go. So,
Cool. So I start getting these lyrics from, and I know they had to come from the Lord because it just wasn't me. And it was like, I got a job inside the prison walls. You chose me. You chose me. There's a job inside the prison walls. You chose me. You gave me the power. You gave me desire to help with one inmate hour after hour. And I'm like, wow, really? Okay. So keep that in mind. So I got transferred up to my regular cell. And when you're in jail, you get exercise. You get to go out on this basketball court, whatever it is. I know God let me go there for this last time for this reason. Okay, so I'm walking around. There was this guy sitting over there. You get a feeling about someone when there's either a synergy or just kind of like, that guy's cool or whatever it is, right? And you say, I'm like, what, Lord? Because I just felt drawn to him, you know what I mean? But you don't just like walk up to somebody when you're in jail and say, I want to be your bro.
Yeah.
It's like, but he said too, and I did, okay? So I said, my name's Roger, and this guy was always sitting with these two other younger guys, and he put his hand up. He had like 3 fingers on one hand or whatever it was. I said, my name's Roger, and he says, I'm Chris. And I said, who's these guys? He said, they're my sons. So here's, father in jail with his 2 kids. So we would talk, and I sensed that there was something, he had some spiritual connection. And, for me, that's what recovery is. You have to have it. We can talk more about that if you want to. But so I would go to chapel, and he would just kind of watch what I was doing, When I got in there, I'm going to just divert a little bit, but when I got in, see, I was good at selling stuff. That's what I did, right? I could sell a ketchup popsicle to an Eskimo, okay, I promise you, on a 90-degree day. Because that's the kind of salesperson I was. I was really good at it. And so I would watch what the guys inside, were doing. What did they want? These kinds of things. This guy over here likes cookies. He likes apples. He likes bananas. He likes whatever. All right, so what does Roger, in his best thinking, still broken, okay, at ease but still broken. I'm gonna get me a job in the kitchen. Okay, so I get down in the kitchen, I put some coffee in a bag, twist it up, put it down in my sock, right, and then whatever, and I'd take it up to my cell, and I had a store. Okay, so that's what I was doing, until someone caught me and kind of shook me a little bit and said, Roger, you're good at selling, so let's change that to something, let's keep that idea, but shift it to something on a positive sense. Okay, so now, I'm going to church and asked Chris if he wants to come to church. He says he does, so he comes down to church with me. This one Sunday, we were coming up the back, and one of them cries. He started just bawling like a baby. And I'm like, you want to take care of business? And he says, yeah. So we went down to my cell, him and he gave his life to the Lord, okay, in my cell, in prison. So that's why I know that I know that I know that I know I went there for this reason. Now, the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, right? I just dated myself, didn't I?
Oh, no, I still, now the rest of the story.
That's
Right?
Yeah.
The rest of the story. So, so within about 2 days, part of what I did with Chris was and this is how the accountability started in my program with the men, we agreed that we would be accountable to one another upon our release, whenever that might be. So about 2 days after he gave his life to the Lord, he was released. Okay, bunk and junk. Chris, bunk and junk, you hear it over the intercom. Bunk and junk, which means get your bunk and your stuff, you're out of here. And I'm like, praise God, right? 3 days later, okay, I was in a trial at the time, okay? Well, more than a trial in the jury sense, but a trial in my life. Charges were dropped, and I was released. Okay, now talk about a God moment, that was it for me. So, remember the song in the beginning. Remember I said I knew that he had some connection with, a religious or a spiritual somehow. So his mom calls me and says, have you seen Chris? And I said, no, I haven't, but we were supposed to be in touch. And Chris must have given his mom my number, because that's how she got a hold of me. And about 3 days later, I called checking up on Chris because we were supposed to get together. Chris is dead. He's gone. Okay? He went back to what got him there. Okay, his old thinking. And he's gone. Now she asked me to eulogize him. I says, what? And then the song came to me. I got a job inside the prison walls, you chose me, right? So I said, of course I'll do it. And I got to the church, man, and it was packed. I mean, there was probably, from what I can remember, 150 people there. It was not a huge church, but it was packed. So all of his family was there, right? So I was the only living person that could testify to his family that he was with the Lord, because he gave his life back to Jesus in my cell. I was the only one, right? So that's what I believe God sent me back in there for that time, and I haven't turned back since. And that was about the end of it, about 14 years ago. Well, it'll be, I think it's 14 years in April, right, that I'll be clean and sober. So that's the kind of fast forward, hoppy choppy version of my story.
But it is, like what you're doing now is giving back to that community, and pretty much you felt like that you're placed there for that.
There's no doubt in my life, Bill.
Absolutely.
When I got out, I was dabbling in real estate a little bit in my little brief stint without a drink, and my brother had introduced me to it, it was actually selling houses on contract before selling houses on contract was a thing. Okay, actually bought my first one and it worked. I thought, well, you know what? If this works, we can do this some more. I was clean and sober, or clean at least. I wasn't sober yet. I don't think I got sober for about 5 years, and I still struggle on the line sometimes. I assure you. All right, it's a process, not an event. I got involved a little bit in the real estate end of things, and what I was doing was using OPP, OPM, other people's money. Okay, and what I would do is I would buy homes, real estate online. And then wherever I bought it, I would connect with a local realtor there, right? And the idea behind it was to be able to buy an REO, bank-owned property for next to nothing, because this was in 2008 or 9 or 10, whenever it was. And there was a lot of real estate available because all that collapsed, all that stuff happened. Right, so I was capitalizing on that. See, I was really smart about this stuff, right? And, you know, God had a plan, but I was just like buying crack and selling dope instead. I wasn't supposed to, I assure you. So what I would do is I would get, there would be an investor involved, you know, maybe he'd put up the $500 and we'd buy the house, and I would contact a realtor. Okay, we own this now. Can we resell it? All right, and see, because I couldn't do it. I wasn't a realtor. So he would take care of all that, and then the investor would get paid off the difference between his out-of-pocket and then the final sales price, right? And then he paid me a finder's fee, and that's how it worked. And I started to do very well doing that. Okay, so then I ended up getting one in Gary, Indiana, of all places, right? So this one I got in Gary, it worked the same way. It worked the same way. I was able to arrange a land contract with this brother, Keith Shoulder is his name, and he bought I think the very first one. I ended up driving over here because I don't fly, so I drove over to Gary, and I was walking down Vermont Street, and there was this guy sitting on a porch. He had a 40, okay, and then there were these two girls. They were kicking this ball back and forth, and they each had one shoe on, this dirty, muddy ball, and they were laughing and carrying on like life didn't get any better. And I'll tell you what, guys, I lost it. I got another good cry, and I'm literally on my knees. Here I am in Vermont Street. Okay, now I don't quite look like these folks over here, and I'm thinking maybe I could be a target here, but it didn't matter. I lost it, and I fell on my knees on Vermont Street in 800 block, right? I said, Lord, is this what you want? And he said, yes. All right, so it was, I drove back to Pennsylvania, and he said, you're going to Gary. And I said, excuse me? Are you serious? And he said, yeah. So if I didn't go, I think that, I would just be a liar, because I say I believe this one thing, but then I do something else. Right. That makes me a liar. I do the best I can today, a day at a time, as they say, to keep it right. So I got over here and started instructing a little bit in how to buy a home, from a bank. Then I sold one to Keith Shoulder, like I mentioned earlier, and he introduced me to a fella, Mike Pirtle. Thank you, brother. Hope you're listening. He was a caseworker at the Kimbrough. Those guys have been amazing. Executive Director Kelly Bittorf, Director Mark Murphy, Supervisor Batchelor, everybody over there has just been amazing, an amazing support for me, because they let me come in and, meet with these guys, pretty much on a regular basis, or pretty much whenever I wanted to. And that's how the whole idea of assisting inmates, residents, excuse the language, residents that are incarcerated. That's how that all got going. Yeah.
We're going to have to take a station break here for just a bit.
You want to pay the bills, do you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
We do need to take a break every half hour.
Okay.
And so we'll hold
Sure.
that thought there, and we'll be back with you shortly.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Actually, Roger is taking a break here for just a bit.
Just a
So we're just going to talk through some things while we're going through. And this is the type of thing that we envision for the show. Have people coming on and telling their story and maybe giving some inspiration to some other folks out there. But Roger, the reason why we have it on, and he'll get to it here shortly, is his role in the community now as an advocate. Going in and helping guys out, whether it be addiction or if it's a mental illness, he actually advocates for them, for the judge. And in one case I know recently, his client, if you will, was released to him, and he marched them right into a treatment facility. So, Roger is back. What about our other guest is sleeping.
Yeah. He's taking a little nap,
Yeah.
Mr. Sam.
Yeah. Oh man, he's a great looking dog.
Yeah, he is.
He's a
So
good guy.
is he a full breed black
He's a black lab.
lab?
Yep.
Yep.
Stay.
So that's
Okay.
what Dexter would look like
If he was normal.
If he was normal.
Yeah.
We
We have a German Shepherd, and then we have what we call a Dexter, because that's his name, and he's half Black Lab and half Basset Hound.
Okay.
So picture your beautiful dog there with longer ears and jowls and little teeny stubby legs, and that's
Yeah.
what Dexter
Yeah,
is.
little flat
Dexter would
dwarf.
be very jealous of this dog right here.
Oh no, he would try to unionize that dog.
Well,
and-
yeah, he would unionize it like he does
Yeah.
all the pets in our house.
Yeah. Dexter, we think, is a reincarnation from one of
Of
my
his
my
Uncle Larry.
Yeah, who always was trying to stir the pot.
Okay.
So Dexter would every time we didn't give someone enough dog food or cat food,
Or they need water, or they
Yeah.
need to go out. He
So-
comes and lets us know.
yeah, he
Wow.
would come up to us and start flapping his jowls and start. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we call him our union rep in the
Yeah.
house.
Okay. I would refer to that as a snack for Sam.
Yeah.
Sam's
Yeah.
great looking.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Down.
We'll have to have him on the
down,
camera here
all the
so
way.
I could appreciate him.
Yeah.
All the way. All the way. Yes,
Wow.
sir.
So where'd we leave off here? You
We
were,
want to hear
I
about what
was-
you're doing now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
so we,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
we've
what I'd
got
like to hear.
some time here, but I want to make sure we get in what you're doing now, and
And
Okay.
but
some
we don't want to
music.
abbreviate your story either, because that's
Okay. Well,
powerful
thank you.
and important.
Thank you for that. The Lord, I know that the Lord brought me, okay, here to assist guys like me, okay? They have to know that I've been where they are, all right, to be able to receive, my experience at least, to be able to receive anything from me, okay? 70% of those that are incarcerated, okay, come back. That's the recidivism rate. I believe that's national, 68 or 70%. It's right around there. So think about that. 3 out of 4 almost will come back to jail within 6 months to 2 or 3 years. That's the window, okay? Because we're not doing anything other than punishing the symptoms. And I believe, with all my heart, that some of these acts of crime, they call them crimes, which they are crimes, are symptoms, okay, in my opinion. Okay, so I say, as a sneeze is, okay, to a cold or an allergy, a symptom, okay, so are some of these low-level crimes a symptom of feeding a substance use disorder. And I can't really put it any clearer than that, okay? And I say this because, let's just say Jamie's walking down the street and he sees a cell phone, a $30 cell phone or whatever on a dashboard of a car. He breaks the window, all right, to get this $30 phone to sell it for some dope, when he knows he should be buying diapers or something for the babies, okay, or whatever. All right, that just doesn't make sense, okay? I'm convinced that criminality and mental illness are closely entwined, okay? And part of the reason I say that is because when I'll interview the men, I'll go, you know, what makes you cry when you're in here? And they'll look at me with their hat, you know, if they
Yeah.
got one. And they'll go like, I don't cry, you know. And I'll go, you know, bull, okay? I cried when I was in jail, so I know that you cried when you're in jail, right? So what that did for me was that de-escalated and brought them kind of down to where I was, you know. And they'll go, their response 100% of the time, or 99.9 at least, was, I cry because I'm afraid someone's going to take my place with my woman and my children out there, okay? So then I look at them and I'll say, okay, so let me understand this. You cry, which is about the deepest emotional thing a human feels, I think. You cry because you're afraid someone's going to take your place. Okay, but then when you leave here, within 6 months or so, you're going to be back in. This just doesn't make sense. I think that's illness, personally.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. And we got to stop trying to figure it out. And 70% of what they're doing is not working. Okay, so you know we need to love these guys back into loving themselves. You know, as far as that goes. Yeah. We're setting these guys up as lame ducks. Okay? I say that because when someone comes out of jail with a felony, okay, there's little hope for them. Okay? Education and employment are the two main barriers to successful reentry. Okay? If you can't get a job, right, and you can't go to school, there's a pretty good chance you're going to go back to what you thought was working. Okay, you know, survival is the most basic instinct of a human being, correct?
Absolutely.
So, you know, what does survival look like for most of these guys? Okay, well, for me, it looked like selling dope on the street, right, to stay alive. Okay, so it looks the same for them unless they start to change their mind. You know, I say to the guys, you know, when we're trapped in an addiction or a substance use disorder, or with a substance use disorder, our brain is like, consider it to be a hard drive in a computer, okay? It has a virus, okay? And what do you do with a virus when your hard drive is infected? Okay, you take it out and you throw it away, or you get it wiped, right? And then you reboot, right? So the same thing I believe is true with an addict, okay? We have to empty out what's in here, okay? Because 95% of what we're thinking is only about survival, and our value system is so low that our survival is really nothing, okay? Excuse the expression, but it's not to say that addicts don't have values, because we do. We do have values. We just need to understand what they are and start to live without looking over our shoulder and have a peace, and for me that peace comes from Jesus. You know, so in my opinion, a big part of staying sober, getting sober and staying sober, is having a relationship, okay? Some sort of spiritual connection, relationship. Mine is Jesus Christ, okay? For someone else it might be, you know, whatever, but for me it's Jesus. So until we start to change, you know, that mindset, and then we start to load new information, okay, into the hard drive. You feel me? All right? So we start to load new information in, and we start to think different. And for me, it's changing my mind, okay? And when I can start to help these men change their mind and look at things differently, change happens. I'm telling you, change happens. So, again, based on the national number of 60 or 70%, whatever it is, I've been working with these guys for since 2010, roughly, okay? And to the best of my knowledge, my recidivism rate, if you will, is only about 12%.
Oh, that's
now, I
great.
say only with a grain of salt, okay? Honestly, because, you know, one is too many. All right, but that's been my experience with these guys. And what am I doing differently? You say, you know, how or why or whatever. I'm just loving them, man. All right, because 90% are fatherless. Okay, the percentages are high for diagnosed for a mental illness while they're in there, which isn't getting treated. Now, it's shifting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, you know, everything we're doing out there is wrong, but for the most part, what they're doing isn't working, right? So we need to change, and we're starting to change. I had mentioned what they're doing in Porter County. Family had reached out to me. Now we'll go to the other piece that I'm doing as far as assisting these guys. I recently became a director of NAMI for Gary, Indiana. You had Amy Brinkley on the show a while back. She was the director, and she moved down to FSSA down in Indianapolis. They're lucky to have her. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Amy.
I'm telling you, because if Amy walks into a barn and doesn't see a horse but smells it, she won't stop until she finds it. Okay, so that's the kind of girl they have down there.
Actually,
And,
she's going to be on next week.
Yeah.
oh, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
In fact,
Good.
that reminds me, I've got to call her.
Okay. But yeah, so she kind of passed the torch to me because we were working together. Actually, I went to a meeting down in Indianapolis, and I met with Josh Sprunger and invited him up. I put a little office together up in Miller, and even without telling anybody, I made up this thing. It said, NAMI, Gary, Indiana, Amy Brinkley, director. And I put it on the wall. And Josh was the executive director down there at the time, I think. And so I invited him up to the office, and I said, Josh, come here. I want to show you this. And he goes and he looks at it, and he sees it, and he's like, we just started laughing because we knew that was what was going to happen.
Right.
And so that's how that all came to pass as far as that goes. But yeah, so having the ability to treat these guys, if you will, is where we need to be, if that makes sense. For the last year and a half or so, I've been doing some trainings. I got some certifications now under my belt that actually can. Now they'll take me serious. I don't know, because I guess inside the box.
You have a piece of paper now.
Yeah,
so,
I got a piece of paper now.
That's
Well, it
right.
still costs me $6 at Starbucks for coffee, so I don't know how
Exactly.
special that piece of paper is, But yeah, so that's what I do. That's what I do. I help these guys get to the next level. I was working with Porter County. A family had reached out to me. I'm sorry, Bill. Did you?
Oh, no, I was
Yeah.
just about
Yeah.
to mention, don't mention Starbucks on this show.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
fluid coffee.
Fluid
Oh,
coffee
Fluid
bar.
coffee.
I'm sorry.
No,
That's
I'm
okay.
just-
No,
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 I'm
no,
just-
We're just
No,
kidding.
we're fueled by Fluid Coffee.
That's
Gotcha.
right.
So-
Okay. Okay. Fluid coffee it is.
It's a great place, by the way.
Okay.
It's fantastic. Talk
When you're
about
in
it.
Valpo, go to Fluid Coffee.
Okay. Maybe I'll run over because I'm a coffee junkie now.
Oh, me too.
Oh, yeah.
Me
You'll
too.
love it.
And it's
You'll-
good.
Good stuff.
Definitely love it. So,
So a family had reached out to me, and now I've got my NAMI hat on. Okay. So we have a family member, right, that's struggling with a substance use disorder. Okay, what's going on? And I get these calls all the time, right? And resources are limited, but there is places for them. Okay, so where is he? Oh, he's at Porter County Jail. And I normally would try to stay in my neighborhood because it makes sense, right? But I couldn't say no to this person just because I'm not a no-sayer.
Right.
All right? And that's okay sometimes. So I got a hold of Captain Taylor here at Porter County Jail. And I says, Captain Taylor, the family called me, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to be able to get with B. I don't use names and stuff. B,
Right.
for confidentiality. And I want to help him get his insurance. He doesn't have insurance because that's a huge barrier also. So he said, well, we'll be taking care of that probably 45 or 60 days. And I said, all respect, sir. I would like to come there tomorrow. I'll go to FSSA and get the paperwork. I'm going to come tomorrow. And I want to facilitate this getting filled out. I am with NAMI. I am a certified recovery specialist and community health care worker now with that piece of paper, right?
Right.
And so he said yes. He was like, this guy gets it, man. You know what I mean? He's just an awesome guy, Captain Taylor. I can't say enough for him. Because I pestered him about 3 or 4 times to get in and see B. I did. That's just the way God uses me. So I go in there, we get the paperwork filled out, and so I took it, I hand-delivered it to FSSA. We got him into the 30-day preemptive eligibility, which is a part of what has to happen, because you have to have money if you're going to go to treatment. And that's okay, because everybody has to eat, right? Okay, so after that, I went back in a couple more times. Captain Taylor let me in to interview him. And after talking with this guy, I realized that underneath the thick skin, there's really a pretty mellow dude in there, okay? And we all are. It's just, that needs to get pulled out of us like that guy did
Gotta
for me
find
back
it.
in jail, right? He said, you can sell stuff, Roger. Okay, but let's not sell dope anymore. Let's sell this because it's legal. So anyway, I was starting to realize a little bit about his backstory. And I thought, okay, so the environment is huge, in my opinion. If you go back into a toxic environment, all right, from leaving a toxic environment, nothing changes, because unless we got a number of years of abstinence and sobriety, we're going to fall back. That's just the way it is. So I says, okay, Brad, I'm going to get you an out of the area treatment facility. So I reached out to a place down in Lafayette. They're doing great work. Home with Hope is the name of the organization. In Sycamore Springs, they work, hand in hand. One is the medical side, and then the other is the residential treatment side. I think Jay was talking about residential earlier, and I think you were too. Okay, so I'll be a son of a gun. They took him. They gave an acceptance letter within a couple of days, just because I don't know, just because God put me there. The place is amazing, and you don't just walk into that place. You just don't. So it had to be a divine intervention.
Of course.
So here I was. I says to B, I says, here's what I got for you. All right, you're not coming back home with your toxic environment and your girlfriend. I use that. I struggle with that word because I know the situation. And he says yes. Okay, so now that hurdle is overcome. We got a place for him to go. We got the money in place. Everything's good to go. Now we need the prosecutor on board. All right. So doesn't this knucklehead, excuse my language, but decide to blow off a public defender? They offer you an attorney. Okay. He says, no, I got this. Well, that's part of our problem. See, we think we got it. We want to be the director, the actor, and all the players in the show. Mm-hmm. So he says, no, I don't need a public defender. And that was the worst thing he could have done. We have to take the help when it's offered to us.
Absolutely.
That's part of our problem as addicts, because we think we got it, but our best thinking got us where we were, and we choose to forget that. And I say choose because we do, right? We choose that. Although the substance use disorder, is a chemical imbalance, all right, but we still make a choice somewhere.
Right.
You feel me? Right? In my opinion. But that can be corrected. So anyway, he says, no, I don't need an attorney. So now he's screwed because his next hearing was going to be a status hearing. Okay? Well, he didn't have a lawyer, so he would have just gone back in jail. And that's part of the 70%, in my opinion, that's broken.
Sure.
They just keep kicking it down the road, And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing in and of itself, but it's not a good thing if you truly want to help these guys move forward. So I reached out to a friend of mine. Shout out to Trent McCain down there and Gary. He doesn't do criminal anymore, but he says, I got a gal who will help. And I don't have $1 million for a lawyer. So I calls up this person, and she said, yeah, Trent sent you my way. You must be okay. What do you need? And she took the case, right, pro bono, right?
That's great.
So she showed up, made her appearance. She talked to the prosecutor about my plan. And see, the plan is not to throw away the crime. It has to just be put over here for a minute. Let's get our head on straight and then come back and address the crime. We'll mitigate it, not litigate it. So the prosecutor got on board and said yes.
Yeah.
The judge here, I forget his name right now, Roger something. Remember the first name, Bradford. I think it's
Bradford,
Yep.
yeah, about to say.
Yep, great guy, great guy. As soon as he learned that we got him into Home with Hope, he says, we know about that place. And then my attorney said, yeah, Roger Hayward's here, and he's with NAMI, and he's going to transport him. And I'm like, this is a little bit of a stretch, okay? Because no, I don't just want him to go down there, but I want to take him there
Now
too.
you gotta take him.
And judge says, I'm going to release him to your custody, and you can come pick him up in a couple hours and take him down. So B's down there and at the Home with Hope, and he's starting his life.
That's wonderful.
So
Well, thanks to your ability to go in and be his advocate.
Yeah, advocate, support. I know what has to happen because I know what didn't work with me, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? I know what didn't work with me, so if we can start to do the opposite of what didn't work for me, and we can start to make some progress.
Well,
But
we got about
and
4
that-
minutes. You think
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
play us something in
And,
about 4 minutes?
Before we do that, that is so helpful to have someone that has been through it walk down that road.
Absolutely.
And that's a strong advocate.
I think we
So-
need to have him back on.
Oh,
Talk some more
definitely.
stories.
Yeah.
And maybe play some more music.
You know,
and play some more
actually,
music for us.
I
We'd
may
love
want to
that.
talk to you about next week.
Yeah.
Amy's going to be calling in, but
Okay.
still.
Okay.
We're actually going to talk about the future of the show and some ideas, so,
That's yeah. Let's talk about that.
okay.
So
All right.
I've been here about 2 years. I'll try to make this piece quick. So I've been here about 2 years, and I was going broke. And I said, Lord, I thought you said go there. And I was basically ready to turn around and go back to Pennsylvania because I was out of money. And I always usually have my guitar with me, and I was in this truck, and I'm riding down the road, and the Lord started giving me these words. Who am I to turn my back and walk away? When you walked up Calvary for me that day. So, so he was saying to me, Roger, no. All right?
That's
If I
right.
turn my back on you, where would you be? So I believe he gave me these words, and I'm jotting them down. I'm saying, Lord, I'm driving. He said, pull over, you fool. I got a song for you. So I did. I pulled over to the
There
side
you
of the
go.
road, and who am I to turn my back and walk away? When you walked up Calvary's hill for me that day. I need to tune up. I am so sorry.
Oh, no, it's
You're
fine. It
too
sounds
fine.
good to me.
Actually,
I
you
just-
shouldn't have said anything. It was sounding great
Yeah,
to me.
nobody would have known.
I'm so sorry.
You're good.
You're great.
Who am I to turn my back and walk away? When you walked up Calvary's hill for me that day. Oh dear Lord, don't get me wrong. And Father God, please hear my song. Who am I to turn my back or walk away? Lord, you knew, oh, you knew that I was lost. Still, you took it on yourself. You paid the cost. Oh, you let them drive those spikes right through you. You let them beat you and whip you too. Who am I to turn my back or walk away? Now, dear Lord, my Jehovah, Father God, I ask you please. Now I'm begging you, oh Lord, I'm on my knee. Help me not to turn my back on you. Help me not to turn my back. Help me not to turn my back or walk away. You allowed me trials to teach me every day. Who would I be if I turned my back or walked away? You're the teacher, you're the son, for the love of everyone. Who am I to turn my back or walk away? Oh dear Lord, can't you speak to me and teach me what to do? How to listen again for that gentle voice and know for sure it's you. Oh, I know that I have failed you, Lord, but you're not keeping track. So who would I be if I turned my back? Who would I be if I turned my back on you, Lord? Who would I be if I turned my back or walked away?
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's amazing.
Praise God.
Thank
It
you
is
for
beautiful.
sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you. And Roger, I hate to do this
Yep.
because I'd almost like
Gotta
to have
go.
you play another one,
Yeah.
but we hit right on the hour.
Right on the hour.
You did
So,
good then. Praise God.
Yes.
Yep, we did. Thank
did.
you so much.
Roger, I cannot tell you how much we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and
wanna have
sharing
you
that
back.
music. And
Yeah.
please,
Yeah, and Sam.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sorry, buddy, we didn't get to you today.
We'll interview you next time.
Yeah. Matt Damon, right?
That's
Matt,
right.
Matt
That's right.
Damon wasn't able to make it on
That's
here
right.
today,
Yeah,
but we
that's a
will.
Jimmy thing, right? Yeah.
So with
Unfortunately.
that, folks, we would like to thank you for tuning in today. This has been the Recovery Radio. Megan Johnson will be returning next week, and we will having a very interesting guest with us, Amy Brinkley. Although with us, I think she's actually going to be calling in. But we're going to be sharing some ideas about the show. And Roger, if you have some free time, we'd love to have you back, and
Okay.
maybe we could kind of carve out some more time to hear some more music and maybe share some more stories as well.
Praise
so
God.
Praise, yes. So with that,
Thank you.
we will end the show, and we wish you all a very safe and happy rest of the week. And we just to let you know, we do have to re-record our exit because our rebroadcast actually starts at 6 for the Bill Moran show and lasts till 7. Recovery Radio will go from 7 to 8 on Saturday. So Saturday evening, 6 to 7, the
And
Bill
then
Moran show,
7 to 8.
and then 7 to 8, the Recovery Radio. So with that, we wish you goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Really.